All right, good morning. So welcome, and there we go. We're going to be doing a lot of things on the knee kind of in the beginning. So if you want to have extra padding for that, getting that. And here we are. Let's just start sitting in Sukhasana. And lengthening up, getting space between the vertebrae, space in the hip sockets. Whatever shifting and swinging you want to do. And then finishing with that. Hands resting on the knees. Big inhale, exhale out the mouth, letting go. Letting the eyes soften and close. If you feel you need a couple more letting go exhales, go ahead and do that. And then once you feel a little more settled in, breathing through the nostrils, nice long, smooth exhale. Letting go even more of the rest of the day. And feeling where you are. Making a little nudge and shift here and there. And just letting yourself be as you are today in this moment, even if it's not where you want to be or think you ought to be or what you ought to be. Taking one or two more breaths here. And reaching out wide through the collarbones, through the fingertips. Breathing the arms up overhead, inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Let's do that twice more. And twisting to the right. Inhale, making lots of space. Exhale, twisting into the space. Coming back to the center, twisting to the left. Inhale and exhale. Coming back to the center, noticing which leg is in front, so we can put the other leg in front in a moment as we extend our legs straight out. And Dasana. And taking a little forward bend, pressing forward over. Maybe reaching forward and over. And nothing, let's bend the right leg back, either in a sort of tree pose with the sole of the foot on the inner thigh, or taking that right hip back a little, pulling the right knee a little wider into the wide Janushirasana position. And then here we are facing our left leg, a little feeling of twisting to the left, perhaps to be very square over the left leg as we come forward over the left leg. Reaching with that right arm, just being where you can be at this moment. Inhaling, making a little more space. Exhale, deepening into the space. We're only about 5 minutes into the class, so don't expect your forehead to come right down to that chin already. Sliding the right leg back to meet the left. And we'll take that left leg back. Going wide or maybe more straight out to the side. And getting yourself squared up over that right leg, maybe a little feeling of twisting to the right. As we come forward in Janushirasana, over the right leg, reaching with the left arm. Breathing into whatever resistance and stiffness and dullness you feel. Trying to fight it, not trying to shove past it. Just being there with it, breathing, making space, easing out. And then coming up, sliding the left leg back out to meet the right, taking a little forward bend. Changing across of the legs. Yeah, a little lengthen up there. Let's breathe the arms up and interlock the fingers, turning the palms to the ceiling, pulling the elbows wide. Pressing up, rounding down, squeezing the upper arms toward the ears. And then slowly coming forward, grounding back, coming forward more, grounding back more. Another couple of breaths to reach the floor. And then letting the hands release and come into the floor, everything softens. Big round breaths across the back of the body. And coming up, unfurling the spine, vertebrae by vertebrae. Here we are back up on top of the sitting bones. Inhale and exhale. And let's come up, downward facing dog. And walking the dog or anything else you want to do here. Breathing into your body. And then here we are, downward facing dog. Inhaling up to the sitting bones, exhale, pouring down the backs of the legs. And coming down, sitting back in child's pose. And sliding forward into the Sphinx. Pulling back with the sides of the body, lengthening the center line up and forward, maybe forward and up, reaching back through the toes. Maybe imagining we're stretching over the block under the sacrum as if we were lying on the ceiling doing that. And then palming down, letting the forehead rest on the hands. And really reaching back through the legs. Let's lift the legs off the floor, however far they lift at this moment. Reaching the legs down. And then taking the arms around behind you, interlock the fingers. And then let's start just lifting up with the upper body here. Squeeze the elbows, pressing the whole back of the arm up, not just the hands. Down, release the hands. And then, of course, we're going to do both together. All right, interlocking the fingers again, give those shoulders a nice roll out, lengthen to lift, whatever you can do at this moment. And breathing. You still feel those sides going back, center line forward. And then letting that go. And we will make our way back up to downward facing dog. Maybe a couple cat and cow ripples. If you want to go through a vinyasa along the way, go ahead, or not, maybe just being in downward facing dog. And then here we all are in downward facing dog. And let's lift the right leg up, reaching long through the heel. Dog at the high fire hydrant, opening up that right hip, bending the right knee. And through to the lunge. And then bringing the left knee down with strength. And coming up in Jayasana, the kneeling. And breathing those arms all the way around and back up overhead. And reaching the arms down, and we're going to hinge back, flexing the right foot. So if you have blocks, maybe using blocks for the hands here. So we're going to be going back and forth. Just take a couple breaths here. Pulling up that right leg, getting settled into the shape, feeling that. And then we'll reach through the toes and take a lunge forward. We can keep the fingertips on the floor there, or the blocks pressing into the front of the left hip. And then hinging back and take a breath. Let's do that 3 more times. Coming forward, pause, hinging back, and pause. And then once more. And then we'll come forward, bring the arms inside the right leg and turning up into the elephant rider. Feet on the diagonal, pressing those knees out. And we're going to come around into the temple pose, but the goddess pose arms with the cactus arms. So pressing down into the feet, coming up 3-pointed star. Everything radiating out from the center. And then as we bend our knees again, instead of the Namaste hands, pulling the elbows wide. Into the cactus arms or the goddess arms. And then let's eagle pose the arms, bringing the right arm under. Or else holding the shoulders. And then let's straighten up again, untangle the arms. Big reach wide, and then we'll come around to Namaste hands as we bend the knees again into the temple pose. And then tipping forward, straightening the legs for a moment. Oh, I got in a rush there. And then turning to the right arm. And then stepping forward. Into the concave back. Folding over. And then let's come up to standing, big front body yawn. Pressing the arms down long through the top of the head. And then keeping those fingertips reaching down, arms right alongside, a little drawing back of the shoulders. Let's hinge out into a flat back. So if you feel like you can't really do this with the knees straight here, go ahead and put a little bend. And reaching the hands toward each other like you're holding a block back behind you, long through the top of the head. I'm going to reach the arms behind and out to the side and back up overhead to the front body yawn where we came from. And then diving forward and over. Concave back, folding over through the vinyasa or not. And then we'll go around on the left. All right, and here we are, downward facing dog. Let's lift the left leg up. Bending the knee dog at the high fire hydrant. Opening the left hip, but keeping that right leg steady. And through to the left. And then we will ease that right knee down. Coming up in Jayasana. Breathing the arms all the way around and back up overhead. We reach down, hinging back, straightening that left leg, pulling the toes back, pulling up through the top of the thigh. Taking a few breaths here before we start moving. All right, and then we're going to reach through the left foot, lunging forward, pressing into that right front of the hip, and then hinging back, straightening the left leg again. And let's do that 3 more times. Coming forward, hinging back. And then once more. Lingering a couple more breaths with the front left leg straight. And then we'll lunge forward and reach the arms inside that left leg to turn to the elephant. And coming around to the 3-pointed star. So as we come up, we're pressing down into the feet, pulling up through the fingertips, which of course we will still be doing as we change our way of thinking about it, though, to being in the center, in the lower abdomen there, and then radiating out through the 2 legs and out the hands. And then into the goddess pose with the cactus arms. And we'll eagle pose the arms, left arm under this time. And then let's straighten the legs and we'll make our way back around to the temple pose. Big lift and reach with the arms, bringing the hands around to Namaste in front. pouring over, straightening those legs for a couple breaths. Turning to the left lunge to the front of our mat and stepping forward. Into the concave, back halfway up. Folding over. And then coming up to standing, big front body long. Pressing the arms down, long through the top of the head. And then let's hinge again. Reaching back through the fingertips, holding an invisible block as we hinge over, maybe with the bend in. Reach a little longer through the top of the head, reach a little more back through the fingertips and the sitting bones. And then we'll come back up, reaching the arms wide and around, back up overhead to the front body yawn. And diving. Concave back, folding over. Vinyasa, downward facing dog. All right, so here, coming down with your downward facing dog, if you have the blocks, putting the blocks up there at the front. Actually, why don't we just come down and sit and simplify Virasana? There we go. Because we're going to be doing the supported warrior three. But you could always be doing the balancing warrior three or some combination thereof. All right, so if you want the blocks, there they are. You can also use fingertips on the floor, but the blocks will make it so you can have your back more of an actual parallel line to the floor. Probably the highest height of the block is what we all want to use. All right, downward facing dog. People who love the vinyasa could do it again. All right, off we go. Lifting the right leg up. Bending the knee dog at the high fire hydrants. Through to the lunge. And let's come up in the warrior one, though it could be the high lunge if you would really rather. That tailbone down and forward, lift the upper body up and over, kind of in a bridge pose action. If the pelvis were pressing toward the front wall and you were bridge pausing off the wall behind you. And then let's breathe those arms around in a big circle up overhead. And then reaching wide, straightening that right leg, coming into Parsvottanasana, maybe grabbing your blocks here. You can adjust the distance between the feet as well. You might want to pull that back foot in closer to the front foot a little bit. All right, pause, reaching long through the top of the head, trying to be flat back first. And then pouring over that right leg and your mount. And then we'll lunge forward and coming up in that supported warrior three, or maybe a balancing warrior three. You can use a block under each hand. You can put the block in the center. You can have just a block under your left hand. And then as we reach up with that left leg, it's trying to be parallel to the floor. And you're trying to keep the spine long and extended, different than the standing split. So pressing down through the right leg. We'll draw into the abdominal muscles up into the spine. Setting the left leg down next to the right, and letting yourself have a little pour over and soften the knees, kind of a standing child's pose. And then we'll straighten up the legs again to come up, big front body yawn. Unfolding, opening things again, and diving back. And then lengthening out either on the tippy fingers or hands on the block. And we're going to lift our left leg up from here. So find that long spine, kind of like what we had when we were holding the invisible block. You could actually just lift your leg from here and balance. All right, so here we are, all lifting our left leg again, pressing up with the back of the leg, feeling like the left inner thigh moves up a little bit more quickly than the outer to keep that leg parallel. And then we will take a tip into the standing splitness, pulling the left leg up higher. The hip might rotate out a little, pouring down through the top of the head. Even if you don't move much from the warrior three shape, different intention. And then bending that right leg, we'll bring ourselves down with Matsyendrasana. And then just scoot that right leg around so we're in Sukhasana, the crossed legs, with the right leg in front. And we're going to ripple and then into goat pose. All right, so you can hold on to the knees here as we lift the upper chest up. And then reaching forward through the upper chest, contracting, rounding, and rippling yourself up. So let's do that 3 times. And then as you come up from the 3rd time, bringing the legs in and coming into any version of Navasana. Maybe this is your version of Navasana here, with the arms straight out and toes on the floor, or straightening the legs, hanging them out, using the hands on the floor, on the legs to help, reaching long through the top of the head, reaching through the heels. And then we're going to bring the legs down, crossing the left leg in front, and we'll do 3 ripples, lifting the upper chest, coming forward and over, and then 3, and 2, and 1. And once again into Navasana. Maybe the same as you did, maybe differently. So there's just bent knees with the shins down. There's also shins parallel to the floor, which is what I'm going to do for this iteration. And then there's trying to breathe at the same time. And we'll let those legs fold down and rolling ourselves back up into the forward bend. Deep breath. Oh, another deep breath. All right, and concave back, folding over through the vinyasa, downward facing dog. And taking 3 deep breaths in downward facing dog. And coming down, sitting back in child's pose. And then off we will go on the other side. We need to switch sides for that, but I think I will just to know that I'm on the left. All right, downward facing dog. And let's lift the left leg up. And bending the knee dog at the high fire hydrants. Through to the lunge. Coming up in the warrior one, or it could be the high lunge. Bridge posing. And breathing the arms all the way around and back up overhead. Reaching down, coming into Namaste. So maybe blocks under the hands. You can adjust the legs, maybe bringing the feet closer toward the center, toward each other, shortening the stance. And taking a few breaths, trying to be a long, extended spine parallel to the floor. And then pouring over that left leg in your mouth, just like the difference between the warrior 3 and the standing split, pretty much. And also, it might be that there's not a big movement difference in your body, but it's a different intention. More down and over, less out and long. And then coming up to the warrior 3, using the blocks or using the fingertips on the floor, or maybe balancing. Reaching long through that right heel, toes face the floor, knee faces the floor. Strong abdominal muscles drawing up into the spine. Almost like you're doing a little salabhasana there with the back muscles. And we're bringing that right leg down next to the left. Let the knees have a little soften, find a little ease for a moment, relaxing the face and the jaw. And then extending the legs again to come up to standing, big front body. Taking a few breaths here in the front body. 1. And then diving back over. Lengthening out into a flat back. And we'll lift the right leg up, back into the warrior 3, standing on the left leg, reaching down through that left foot into the floor, pressing the back of the body against the ceiling. And then bending that left leg, bringing the right under, coming through Namaste and to bring yourself down, or whatever you need to come through to get down. And then we'll take that left leg around front into Sukhasana, the cross legs. And here we go. 3 ripples, lifting up. And coming forward and over and rounding up and back. You can choose a different number than 3. And then after the third one, we bring the legs together, coming into a Navasana, the boat pose, the V sit, the sitting bones balance. Reaching through the legs, reaching up to the top of the head, feeling like someone's got their hands there, kind of on your lower back. And they're doing a little press forward and up. And then we'll change the cross of the legs as we come down, right leg in front. And rippling. And 3. And 2. And 1. And once more into Navasana. And then bringing those legs down, let's Baddha Konasana, soles of the feet together, knees out to the side. And coming forward and pressing out wide with the elbows. And up. Let's bring those legs together and we will make our way down onto the floor. Maybe a little abdominal roll down slowly. Here we are on the. Oh. All right, let's come up in the bridge pose. Getting the feet under the knees. Scooping the tailbone up, peeling up off the floor. Maybe interlocking the fingers under. And we'll come down. We're going to do some more bridge posing. So we're going to do Ekapada Setu Bandha, the one-legged bridge pose. So we're going to be bringing one leg straight up to the ceiling or straight-ish up to the ceiling from the bridge pose. And here's where the block can come in handy again. So probably using the block one higher than your block under the sacrum height, because we're not going to straighten the legs, or maybe not. Just remember you can stack the blocks too to make a different height if you want. So we want to be closer to a bridge pose, having the knees bent. So maybe the pelvis is a little bit like mine is here. That's all right. You can either just be there on the block with that little dip, a little bit's all right. Feeling the lift up, or maybe you're going to lift up just a little or lighten up on the block, but having that block for support so the pose doesn't collapse or go all crooked. All right. So here we are somewhere. Or maybe you're just on the floor with your legs bent and you're just going to lift the right leg up from there. That's another possibility. All right, so here we are. I'll assume we're on the block in the bridge pose. And we're going to hinge our, oops, let's do our left leg first. Hinge that, no, sorry, my brain here. Hinging the right leg up. And then extending it up, standing on the ceiling. So maybe starting out just resting on the block, really getting the reach of that right leg up to the ceiling like you're standing on that right foot like we were in the Warrior 3. Pelvis wide and flat across the block. Maybe this is good enough right here. Or pressing into the left foot a little more, feeling the scoop up of the tailbone, just lightening on the block, or maybe you can lift an inch or two up off the block. And then back onto the block if you're off, taking that right leg back. Getting your bridge pose resituated on the block as needed. Maybe coming down for a moment. All right, and here we go with the other leg, the left leg, hinging that left leg in, standing the left leg up. So we're starting out just being on the block, focusing on that left leg, lifting up, reaching up, standing on the ceiling, pelvis wide and even across the block. And maybe that's good enough here. We're putting a little bit more effort in, pressing the right foot into the floor, doing a little lift of the pelvis. Maybe you actually lift and try to keep breathing. Lean back down onto the block, bringing that left leg down. And trying to get centered in the bridge pose shape again, just to even out those two sides. And then moving the block out of the way, rolling down. Landing on the floor. Checking for tension in the face of the jaw that needs to be melted into the floor as well. And let's figure 4. Crossing the right leg over, reaching through the triangle, pulling that. And we'll switch legs, crossing the left leg over, reaching through the triangle. Setting that down. And then let's finish with the block under the shoulders. And you can be keeping that block under the shoulders all the way through until the end of the class or your Shavasana, or at any point you can come off the block into lying flat. So getting the block under the shoulders. So one of the many reasons to do this, especially at this point, is for our neck. Get a nice long extends to the back, because when we're in the bridge pose, it does a lot of chin into the chest, and we were bridge posing for a long time. So a nice counter pose stretch for that neck. But as I said before, even a lying flat in a neutral position, like the usual Shavasana, that's also a counter pose. Just not quite so counter. All right, so here we are somewhere in a place of relative ease. Inhaling into the upper chest, exhale, melting off the block or melting into the floor. And let the shoulders, the collarbones get a little wider. And breathing back into your body, into the room. Moving fingers and toes, circling the wrists and ankles, stretching your arms over. Bending in and gently as possible, making your way up to sitting. And sitting in any comfortable position with a long and spacious spine, taking another moment, sitting quietly inside yourself. Namaste. Thank you for coming.